Ah, fuck. That move by Evil actually means diddly squat because he got himself disorganized. He had to be there in full strength. And I think he was disorganized anyway, so it couldn't possibly mean anything. So I can trace through this because there's no zone of control that's strong enough to prevent it. The interaction of the rules of this one really pissed me off. At first, when it's kind of wide open and everything, it all feels better. But as it gets more and more obnoxiously piddling in the whole game, and this, trying to maintain a supply line through these pretty weird roles, it does, and yeah, it annoys me. And of course my life is annoying me too, and apologies for listening to that, but you know what the fuck? When I try to deal with the videos and playing games, there's a reason I stop playing them when my life is chaotic, and it's chaotic a lot of the times. A lot of the meltdowns that I have over rules or whatever are probably because I'm unable to focus on the game because of worries from outside life. I'm always hiding from everything. Anyway, let's try to avoid that path. But, hey, trying to figure out supply in this game. Yes, the rules are clear. There's no question of that. But they don't stick properly. All the implications, oh, fuck, I'm on fire. It wasn't me who was on fire. It was my table. And luckily, this doesn't burn very badly. My wood table gets charred this way. But, yeah, trying to figure out all the implications of all the different rules and how they kind of all fall together in terms of, hey, can I get through that hex? Am I in supply or not? Well, fuck, man, Sedgwick's in supply. It's over, man. All that effort, and no, I did not get where I needed to get because Yule does not project a zone of control into here. He could not have ever projected one. I've thrown away his chance of being able to block all supply by moving him. And that's how this game goes. Because trying to understand all those implications is nearly impossible for this poor little soul. Why not to do clever games, right? All right. So everything's in supply except these guys, I guess. That's what it looks like to me. Right? I mean, let me make sure again and again because I fucking calculated it so many goddamn times yesterday and thought this worked. But, half of them I didn't think it worked. So what the hell? Hunting through all the pieces, making sure that everything that's in supply is organized and everything that's not in supply is not organized. Union lost another strength point there, and it's fucking obnoxious. It really fucking is. And I think the Great Campaigns is even worse because it's got more pieces on the board. It looks like it does. I don't know, maybe the cycles are better integrated in a way where you're looking at, you're looking at all the pieces only once instead of once each cycle and then once in between here just to make sure. Yeah, this is really fucking getting to me. I am close to just packing it in. I'm so close to being done, but it's unimportant. The Union's going to get a significant victory. Anyway, we're done with the starting phase. We're ready to go to those cycles, and we'll fucking do that. And I think, temporarily I had raised my rating on this from a 7 up to an 8. I think I'm dropping it back down to a 7 because the game is really, really interesting early on, and then gets just really obnoxious when it starts getting down to this, trying to keep these supply lines open. When the Union and the Confederacy are actually, when the Confederates can actually interfere with the Union supply lines, or the Union can actually interfere with the Confederate supply lines. And when you have to figure out, am I going to still be able to maintain this, and you're worried about the timing of when am I going to have breastworks built. Do I have the right number of strength points that I can exert a zone of control into this hex? Or am I disorganized and can't? You know, all this shit. It's just, it's too much mental chafe for me to like be able to focus. There's too much of it. If there's one little, you know, annoying piece or something, yeah, I can cope with that. And add to that the mechanical complexity of the constant flipping and unflipping. And, you know, this game is not quite as elegant as it first seems. Once you get down to the nitty gritty, it starts getting really obnoxious. On last chance, the Confederates are beginning to try to fill the gaps to cause the Union to be out of supply once again. That's not going to affect any troop losses, so we're not going to get any points off that. But it can prevent this railroad destruction. I don't think I can do a damn thing about this one. And I'm in danger because whoever's here can hit Hokey. Terry probably can't do much. He's actually probably going to get schwacked by someone, but there's no reason to yet. And Corps here probably put an end to that by taking whatever this is. Somebody's bluff, Chatham bluff. Now I can actually drop, you know, this wouldn't, yeah, this would help me. Longstreet's weak, right? I can't get through here. Maybe here, if I can build a bridge there. I can't do it right away, but that's going to allow supplies to come from here. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, which cuts the railroad destruction line. Other choices would have been trying to swing the Army of the Potomac around, but it probably wouldn't have had enough movement to make the attack. There's possibilities of Warren and Burnside coming back around this way to add a threat. But, you know, they actually have a possibility to make a threat on Manchester as well. So some shit happens and we're through the first action cycle. Basically a lot of activity here trying to knock Terry out of here. I don't know how much value that is. Whoever the fuck this is failed to move Hoke. He didn't get enough movement points. He would have had enough if he went around, but he goes around, he loses his fort, and he's no use then, basically. Got these guys recovering so that one of the things that attacked was Stuart, and now that opens up a pathway to Manchester, so it may break that way. On the other hand, the Army, the Second Corps here of the Army of the Potomac is sitting there ready to build its bridge. And, you know, it looks, I mean, it's definitely hopeless for the Confederates. I don't think they can possibly even eke out the marginal victory that maybe they could have if they had caused a lot of casualties up here. But who knows? I mean, trying to calculate the victory points is kind of painful in this game, so I don't fucking feel like doing it. The thing is, you know, when I get to this point, not just the game, but other things in life and everything, I'm basically reading a novel for every turn, maybe a little bit more than that I play. Not every action cycle, every turn. Because, well, gotta find new ways to hide. To look like all the different options the Union has for breaking the siege of their little crook in the James River are running out. I've actually moved Gilmore forward. Now the problem with that is Ewell could hit him pretty easily and blast him out of there. That's important because Ewell now exerts a zone of control there. Now even this setup isn't enough. The line connection gets me to here, but then again, Ewell is throwing his zone here. So what I think has to happen is Terry has to move here, the bridge has to get built, and somebody has to be at Drury's Bluff. That's still not enough. Some of these forces, Warren and Burnside's, they have to create the path out. Otherwise, this is not going to be in supply and won't be completed. Because this is the second operating or action cycle, and everything's kind of moved up here, there's no way that I can win by taking Manchester. So the only thing I can do is try to improve my victory points by hitting that. But if I can take Manchester, you know, I'll view that as kind of a positive, even though it's not worth anything in the game. He's been foiled because Terry has been screened by Stewart when he attempted to make that move. He actually had enough movement points to do it. Plus I have early available, which is pretty big. Early actually has enough force he could take this, but it's not, you know, likely. Optimally, it's better for me to move into a position and entrench and really block that off. I may have other options though. Let's see. If I can entrench, say, here, I prevent supply to that force as well, which is tasty as an idea. Doesn't work. Early's actually only got 2 strength points. I'm remembering back in the days when he had 4, but he lost a couple of them running down Hinks. So that's not going to do it because no roads coming out of that hex. Back here, yeah, I can throw zones into here and here, but I need forces there. And early can't detach any strength. So I don't know. Well, multiple cases where I didn't understand the terrain and everything well enough. Actually, early could slide into here, and if he fortifies, entrench across, you know, prevent the supplies from running through there. So that's actually one place he can do it. The other thing is, Sheridan moved into here, and now we've got a way out. Which makes this hex kind of important. I don't think there are any Confederates who can reach it. Because Longstreet got hit by something or another, I guess. I don't know. Something hit him. Don't know what. I can remember. The only thing that could have hit him was Terry, and he did. I threw Lee into that battle, actually. It was important enough. Running low on things that I can do. Union really is. I've got this, so if early moves down, I can make an attack. And that's really about it. Now, I actually don't even need to be there. So the one thing I don't want to do is flip. If I position myself here, early can't build his fortifications without attacking. So that's almost as good, maybe even better than attacking. I used up a few exciting things happened early, got kind of maximal movement rolls, went down, got a good combat result against Greg, routing him actually, and had enough movement to run back to here. Anderson can leave Richmond, it doesn't matter anymore, and has moved here. He can't lose the game through losing Richmond or Manchester. It's looking like this supply line is cut, which, you know, we'll see. Warren and Burnside are the only things that can kind of try to save it. I think we're at the end of the second action cycle, and we're moving into the last action cycle of the game. Thank God. You know, like I said, I enjoyed this quite a bit early on, but it's gotten really tedious with all the gymnastics I have to go through to try to figure out the supply lines. They're just, you know, it's too tight. It really is. Anyway. All right. It's coming down to an exciting finish. I mean, I don't know whether or not the Confederates have a chance to reverse the victory, as it were. They do have a fair amount of additional points there, but we had already calculated out with the Weldon, with all the points that are out here, I think it's going to be pretty hard for them to swing it, but it does look like they're actually going to prevent both the railways from happening. The automatic victory is already done. There really isn't a lot left. Petersburg, I don't think the Union have enough points to grab it and burn it. It's worth a decent amount of points. It just wasn't really a focus for us. Anyway. After the recovery, the situation down here, the Army of the James looks so weakened that I'm building the bridge this way. Because I think I have more chance of supporting this unit. And I don't know, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I can still support that if need be. Early made a serious mistake. He could not move out of here. Let me just put him back there. No, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. He's not going to be able to, well, he'll be able to entrench before the end of the game, which is all that it needs to be, because that railway has to be in supply at that point to be completed. Yes. The supply is checked at that moment, I believe. So, yeah. So the additional reinforcement here, and it didn't affect anything. It's just, I was all excited because, hey, I blew Greg away. Yeah, that's not the issue. The issue is Early has to be parked there right now. Right. Okay. And Greg has some potential to chase him away. As this third action cycle starts, or started, the Confederates have the Union essentially bottled up. I don't know if there's anything exciting we did to fill this in at all. I don't think so. This, yeah, I built the breastworks here, which needs to be there. Okay. But beyond that, it was all kind of in place. I mean, here it looks like there's no breastworks, but there's the inherent ones. Most of the activities that have been taking place have been Union actions to try to break that up, but I gotta be careful. Now, here's the thing. So, I sent Warren down here. That's probably the only effective action that I had here. I'm just diddling. But the deal that I have to worry about is I can't say move the Army of Potomac over here to defend. Currently, there is a trace there, but to defend the trace coming through here. Because if I do so, it could get intercepted on the other side. And the reason for that is there's these Confederate breastworks that prevent, even a small force can move into them and it's immediately entrenched. So that's a facet to worry about. Confederates just keep winning the initiative and forcing the Union to do things. I mean, there's a limit. I can't even run from here safely, but I also can't pass safely. That's the other problem. And then there's issues like, hey, Terry's here. He might be delaying any attack on the depots. I can't move him because of the depots. So I've got all these problems where there's potential defects, and I have to kind of try to project where the Confederates might screw up my supply line. Right now it exists. I don't know. I think this one even does. I think I counted it last night and it did. But, if I move Burnside down to strengthen this somehow, what does that mean? Well, maybe it means that the Confederates can loop around and catch everybody behind it. So the fact that the Union has to go last and that we're so tight in with each other means that I can't, the Union has to go first right now, means that I can't guarantee that I can have things in supply, even though I've designed a situation where they're all going to be in supply. That's a little troubling, and especially for, being used to your standard I go, you go, where you can look and say, okay, I put this piece here, I put this piece here, I have it all figured out. And that's been why this is so damn hard all the time, is you have to project for where other people might go. And is that cool? Is it not? I don't know. It didn't bother me when I was up in the wide open maneuvering, but now in this in-close stuff where cutting someone off is a matter of getting a jump on the initiative or whatever, or forcing them to go with the initiative, that really disturbs me. Like, I feel like I should be able to give some sort of contingent command to Burnside. Protect this whole area. There's nothing I can do like that. Now, Warren sort of is protecting this whole area. But the movement of a Confederate unit into here, no, I don't think there's anything big enough that it can get that hex. So into here would project into this hex and this hex. And if a large enough unit, and I don't know if anybody is, could position themselves here, they cut these off in this. And now we've got them blocked off again. And, you know, you could say, hey, so what? But this is the final victory points for the game. It feels like, I don't know, it just feels particularly poignant that I'm like, put in this position at this time. Now, of course, if I had gotten all my eggs into my basket a little earlier, this wouldn't be a problem, but you're always trying to get the most victory points you can. And now we're at the edge of the time, kind of like the edge of the map situation, where it doesn't really matter if the Confederates kind of lose an extra strength point or two if they can keep a rail line open right now. Only right now. Earlier in the game, lose a couple of strength points to keep something open, you may be paying a price that affects you for the rest of the game. Quite a little bit, forgetting, hey, I can't get a piece here because he won't be entrenched, but Hill slipped into this entrenchment, and it has the same net effect. And now I've closed off these two hexes. And you know, it's really coming down to these initiative die rolls. Who's gonna win this little game of chicken right now? It looks like the Confederates are, but yeah, whatever. And I really am not enjoying that part at all. It's one thing when it's happening in the context of the wider game, but it really sucks when it's coming down just to this victory point thing. Chris, victory point grabs at the end of games suck anyway in general. I started to look bad up here. I moved Burnside here to make sure I had a way out through here because Colquitt cut my line here. Well, and this is only a potential line because I got to get in there too. Stewart could now move in here. I don't have a Union commander to slip in there unless it's this cav up here. And again, if this guy doesn't get used first, he could go over and cause problems, right? It's like my life, you know? This whole tangled noodle mess that I have to unwind. But then Sheridan comes down and between him and Gilmore, they break out, who the hell was in there, Hope? They break his position, and now there's a supply line cutting this way. And this is making me feel a little better, not because I really want the Union to be able to get these supplies, but because... And honestly, both sides are making me feel really crazy here because I feel like either side can win this. But the reason is because just force of arms is what won it. You know, it's not all this stupid maneuvering alone. It involved, hey, there's a weak spot that I can break. And I think it's going to be really hard for the Confederates to close this off. Although, see, if I use force of arms to push Sheridan out of the way, that works too. Now, can I give up this hex? I actually think I might be able to. No, this is a Union unit. So I can't send Ewell out. Ewell could break this, but that's not necessary anymore. So it's got to be someone like Anderson to chase Sheridan away. He's got a pretty low chance of doing that. This seems to consistently happen in this game. You know, I think I was stating that I could like maybe drive Sheridan off. It doesn't do me a damn bit of good. This is a Union fort here. The line comes out here. But that line doesn't reach up here. So the Union needed to still keep trying to make this line work. And unfortunately for them, they ran out of pieces before the Confederates did. They're going to have to activate this unit. If they move it here, I don't know. I don't think they'll be in supply. I'm worried about his supply, actually. Route. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so these guys are in supply. If I move into this hex, which is needed to trace supply from back here, there's nothing I can do to prevent whoever the hell this is up here, Wilcox, from moving into the hex I'm in. Now, this is a core. I bet it's big enough. Yeah, I can dispatch someone. What the hell? And that fixes everything. Except, of course, that Anderson could counter me. But I forgot I had a whole core there. Okay. So, let's see who we're going to give. We'll give Bernie a shot to move. And we'll send him, I don't know. It really doesn't take me a lot of strength points to hold this, so I'll send 4 strength points with Bernie, I guess. Or I could leave Bernie behind and take the core with me. And that makes even more sense, because then I can take 5 strength points with me. There is no other way that I can break this line of supply that I know of, except by hitting the Army of the Potomac there. The Union has passed, I guess. This is the last shot of the game. It's going to be a -1 attack from Anderson. I've already used Lee. If he succeeds heavily, he might be able, if he gets a big difference to the die roll, he might be able to dislodge him, and that's game. And that's pretty big. So that's -1, so that's 4 to 2 is +2, and I have chased him out, which means the Army of the Potomac is going to fall back. Anderson is able to get in there, and the supply line running up to here fails, which means this will not get destroyed. And we're calling it here. I got a little abstracted at the end there, but that's fine. Notable here, Anderson's not blocking the supply line, right? It's Colquitt here who's blocking it, but you had to drive out the Union unit to do it. And there was no way that I have, I think, of doing the equivalent here, because this line protects things. I'm not adjacent to that. I can't blow that away. Also, I don't have any, I wasn't blocking it any longer. Sheridan cleared away the blocker. So now it's time to count the points, you know, and I guess we look up the different railways, count up all these, and look at the victory points over there. And boy, we don't want to do that, but okay. So it wasn't all that close. I knew it wasn't going to be close in terms of, hey, is it going to be a marginal victory for one side or the other. It was whether it's a Union marginal or a Union substantive rail lines, and we were pretty sure this was going to work out with all the rails that we took, getting both of these at the end, the south side and the Richmond and Danville, which is worth 12 points between the two. No, 18 points between the two. That's pretty big. We got 38 points on destroying the railroads. The stations were worth 24. Wow, we got lots of points, 62, right? Yeah. Problem is the manpower. The Union's got a big hit on the manpower. That turned out to be negative 12 points. I don't know if this is readable. You know it is, but when I pull it to here, it turns all gray. And it worked out to 50 points, which puts us into the substantive victory. Which is probably a pretty good sign. I probably have done better with the Union than historically was done, is what I would guess. I think the game expects, or I think the historical situation ends up as a marginal Union victory. Let's see. Yeah, they don't bother scoring. They do the whole game as history, but they don't end up giving you the final tally for it. So I don't know. But I'm assuming it comes out as a marginal Union victory historically. And, I mean, clearly things went worse for the Confederacy than they did historically. You can see, I mean, if I had wanted to take Richmond, I could have probably pummeled my way in, but that would be end of, you know, it would have been too late to get a victory out of that. Same thing with Manchester, even more so. Burnside and Warren, they were perfectly able to get there. Would they have been able to be in supply if they'd done that? Probably not. You know, I spent so much effort getting that supply line ready. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that, the Confederacy got slammed pretty hard here. And how was that done? Instead of going for fights along here and trying to attrition the Confederacy, which has its advantages, because when you get down here, they don't have enough troops to cover everything they need to. Remember, the less troops there are, the more holes in these supply, these attempts to blockade supply, right? The easier it is to just send maybe a cav unit in to whack an understrength corps division or whatever and push it out of the way so that you get your supply lines clear. So I think overall, one thing that I did that didn't help terribly for the Union, even though they won, was not fighting. That can cost them more victory points, though. As we've seen, the combat doesn't go well for the Union in general. Although I've seen when they play a very combative game, which I usually used to, they can actually keep the victory points kind of close, and you just shift when, oh look, the tactical situation on this river line is not good. Let me shift somewhere else. But the real problem is making the jump from this supply source to this supply source has to be done, and it's really, really hard to do it east of or west of the Pawnee River or whatever that is over there. This river here. That river sort of defines the whole game. That's the one that really, really causes you a problem. Now, obviously the James you kind of write off as impassable, but this is the one that you're constantly trying to get on the other side of and establish your supply on. And it's really tough. Up here, you can be in supply on the other side of this river, and that's no problem at all. But once you get down here around Hampton, Hanover Junction, Wickham Station, once you get around there, it becomes very, very difficult. The Confederates have an easier time protecting that territory near the South Anna. And I didn't completely just say, screw it, I'm just going to run down there and try to give that up. That would be a valid way to play this and do even less fighting, get less engaged. The problem, of course, with that is the guys up here kind of want to burn these railway stations. They're worth points, Kind of regret that one. It'd be at 51. Could have been 61, right? And then it would be a big deal. But yeah, I don't feel like the Union is at all compelled to actually stand and fight the way Grant did historically. And this time, the Union did not do as well as the other time that I saw them trying to outmaneuver the Confederates. And unfortunately, I was the Confederates that time and playing opposed. And I really kind of got my ass handed to me with the Union slipping behind me, and I just couldn't see how I could ever get back around them, because once they can establish a supply line from back here, if they're behind you, you're just screwed. And a little bit of bad luck on the initiatives, a little bit of deceit and indirection and everything, and boom, you're in there. And it's just over. So it's very easy for Lee to lose the game, massively. The question is, and through incompetence, but, the question is, does Lee have a fair chance of stopping the Union? And I don't think he really does. I think it's too easy for the Union to keep shifting down south and eventually try to manage a crossing. Of course, once you get this crossing, well, now you got another problem here. You got the Chickahominy, and if you go down too far, that becomes a serious issue as well, which is basically once you hit this hex, you see it's got the dark outline, it's no longer easily crossable. However, you can build railroad bridges, or you can build pontoon bridges across that without any real problem. And you can just stretch the Confederate line out to hell as well. So it's going to be pretty tough. I just think it's going to be really tough for the Confederates to block the Union from making the crossing. And if you can't do that long enough, then they're going to be able to get in and they're going to be able to start causing you problems down here or whatever. It didn't hurt, though, to be able to swing back around and come down. That was actually pretty big. You know, one thing that I did with the Confederates that was painful was I let the Army of the James out to do damage, to do real damage early. And that hurt me. I don't know how much of an alternative I had there. I took my casualties down there for the valley, but I got hit with those 4 valley points right away. And, you know, if I had taken them up here in the forces facing the Army of the Potomac, would I have been able to would I have been able to hold them off as well as I did? Well, how much did I really hold them off, and how much was it just Union kind of screwing up, where if they had had a better plan to rush down harder, to try to play a delay of game and maybe bring their forces on this side more quickly to establish a bridgehead by dividing up into divisions and stuff. They have more pieces, they have more commanders, they have more things. So they're able to kind of, even though they lose the majority of the initiative rolls, because of the slight bonus that Lee gives in terms of winning ties, they still probably end up winning the waiting game overall and can put a unit someplace where it's going to be really obnoxious and be able to build a bridge. Not that turn, but, force the Confederates to spread out all over the place. And then lines become easier to dislodge. They really do when they're spread out too much. Even though the enemy who's trying to dislodge you is also weaker, he's got more pieces, so he's got more units that provide him with the +1 bonus over on the combat chart. Anyway, I just think it's a harder game for the Confederates to win than for the Union. It feels that way from all the times that I've played, which isn't a whole hell of a lot. All right, let's send this one up, and we'll give you some review words as well.